Hi, everyone. This is Latoya, President and CEO of Amana Bible Institute. We are having a webinar tonight called um, Be Social. It's the Personal Growth Matters series. It's called Your Digital Self Part 1, all about being social. So come on in, share the broadcast, help us out. And we also want you to know that you are free to comment, ask questions, and just use the comment box below. We will be more than happy to read your comments in the live class. If you would like to be in the live class, just go ahead and click on that link in the box and register for free, and you will receive a link to come into the live class. But I would like to introduce you to the webinar leader for today, Professor Elle Michelle. She is going to be leading this webinar. She is our social media coach slash professor. So we'll welcome her in now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leary. I am so excited to be here. Y'all come on in, share this. I just say I am so I find it to be intriguing that you have this personal growth matters series. Like, how did you think of that? Why did you think that was so important in this time?
Well, as many of you know, those of you who've read our newsletter, if you haven't, click on the newsletter in the description box.
Yes.
But this year, as we actually did last year as well, this year is a year we believe is a year of emergence. And we want to be here as an institution that is ready and able to give you all of the tools necessary to be all that you are meant to be this year and more. And so
Wow.
we're going to be expanding this list of webinars to include April, May, and then the summer months as well very soon. So be on the lookout for some more personal growth matters webinars.
I think that's really amazing when you start to uh, look beyond what you're doing. When you start to look at it from another perspective of how what you're doing is actually also impacting who you are, I think that is just so amazing. And as you know, media, we're anointed in the area of media, and just to take it a step further, we really are moving more so in the zone of healing and having these creative media experiences that bring forth that type of self-awareness and self-development growth, hopefully. And so we're very blessed to be a part of the series. But as you continue to come in and share, that is actually what tonight is all about. And I think this will be our Be Social 101. Is actually, this webinar is a follow to a 5-week course that we taught with Amana last semester. And are really just going to kind of do a refresh of that tonight here in the webinar, some of the key points. And I think it comes at a great time because even as I was putting this presentation together, it was just really kind of just encouraging me again, or reminding me how important it is to be social. We have all of these great gifts, these anointings. We have so much that can help people. And sure enough, we go to sleep each and every night, and it's just us and maybe a few in our circle who know about it. And I believe very strongly that now is the time for us to talk more and make what we have more well known. And so with that said, Be Social 101, I am Elle Michelle, CEO of Elle Michelle Media that moves you forward. We have a focus of coaching and consulting in the areas of new and emerging media, and just trying to help you find ways to use the various media tools to connect with the people who need you. So with that said, when we thought about Be Social was a campaign that I'd say it originated really back in 2012. So this is what, now a 9-year campaign, maybe 14, maybe it's been 7 years. Okay, but the reason why we thought about Be Social is because at the time there was a lot of talk about social media and how to use it and things like that. And at the end of the day, I just kept saying, the real key, or what we really need to be doing, is be social. We have all this social media, all these new tools that are emerging, but are we using them? Are we truly being social? And I meant that in the sense of how we were interacting online. Fast forward, we'll say 7 years later. And one thing that I've been saying throughout this year has been, we now know that virtual is no longer optional. So virtual is no longer optional. So to be social is not something that seems cool to do. It is really something that is necessary to do, especially in times like these, to stay connected and to make sure that your voice is heard, and particularly by those who need to hear you. So just moving ahead with the presentation. Tonight, we'll go over the who, what, when, where, why, and how of being social. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And if you look at that order of things, the why is normally at the end of the list. So when you hear who, what, when, where, why / how, why is usually maybe the last thing that is discussed, when in fact, from the research that we've been doing, it is vitally important that the why be first. So I'll start with a question tonight, or wherever night is for you, or maybe it's day whenever you see this. Why are you here? I mean, there's so much content out there, so much you could be doing. Why did you feel that it was important for you to tune in to this webinar now? I just really want you to think about that. Why is it important for you to be here? Why listen to this El Michelle, if you didn't know me before now, talk about this? Why is it important? Why are you here? And in fact, when we think about why, it is an important question to ask ourselves, even as it relates to why we want to be social in the first place. Why we want to be social in the first place. So is it that you want to be social because you don't want to feel like, you're left behind, like you feel like you have to be social? Do you feel like there are people that need you? Like, one question to open up was, why are you here tonight? And the next question is, why do you feel, or not, that it's important to be social in anything that you're doing, even as you're creating posts down the line, even as you're determining what brand should be speaking, whether it's a personal brand or it's, a business brand or a ministry. It is very important to determine the why. Simon Sinek, is a pretty well-known author and motivational speaker. And he has a talk on TED Talks that I couldn't really share tonight because it's a little long, but he talks about the importance of why and how that has shaped some of the most successful leaders and brands, and just the list goes on and on, when you really start to think about, first and foremost, why it is you do something, why your message is important, why do you need to communicate this to people. And so I would say, when we're talking about our digital self, really kind of digging into our why and letting that kind of lead us, I think we'll see our results improve. And results are relative to your why, really, But I think we will see better if we start with our why. So so since we're starting with why, now we can go from there to the who, what, when, and where, and then ultimately how. So when you're thinking about your digital self is a reflection, or should be a reflection of who you are in person. So your digital self is not different from your physical self in the sense of who you are authentically, your voice, what you represent. The thing about your digital self is that it's a little less limited because it's not limited by geographical location. It's not really confined to time, because right now you aren't really experiencing El Michelle in person. You're actually experiencing my digital self. How is this different from my normal self? Well, my normal self is confined in this room, in this space, in Tallahassee, Florida. But in fact, my digital self is now wherever you are. So I think it's important that you know who you are and you present that. Don't present what we think you should be presenting or what you think people might want. What people really want is you. And so a lot of times when we're being social, sometimes we can take on things or try to become things that aren't necessarily us. I think there's a documentary out that I think it's called Fake Famous, where they show people doing all these things on social media that aren't really real, but they have cameras and things positioned in a way where it looks like it is, but it's really not. And that too can evoke fear in people to get on the networks, because they're like, I don't want to get on the networks if what's out there is not real and things like that. But from a person who's been social networking, I can remember since 2009 was Facebook. Before that, I was on MySpace. So who's been social networking for quite a while, I haven't run into many snags along the way because I've always presented authentically, accepted friend requests and things like that from people who I feel like are authentic. And if there's something that has gone wrong in an account that I've had, I've alerted those platforms. I've changed passwords. So I've been able to manage out here, and I'm a person just like you are. So you can manage too. But it does start with you, and you project what you are, not what you think we want to see as in people, or what you feel like you want to be. If you project who you are, you will become, and people will see that. Especially, I'm here with Amana Bible Institute, so we are talking about it from the standpoint of ministry and, let's say, being used as tools by God. We want to make sure that we present our authentic selves so people can meet this authentic God that we're talking about. So who are you? Who are you talking to? i.e., target audience. Every time I would hear that, I'd be like, everybody is my target audience, because that's just how I feel in my heart. But ultimately, if you read my third question there, who is responding, it will start to help you get a better understanding of your audience. You may not know what your target is at the time. I know in radio, when I was in radio, they would always say, get an idea of a person in your mind who you're talking to, and then talk to them. It is important for you to kind of identify who you're talking to so you can be targeted. But the reality is, when you start off, this is communication. So think about a baby or a small child as they're learning to talk. Initially, they're learning to talk to everybody. So they're saying, hey, and they're trying to get their flow down with everybody. They don't have this sophisticated way of communicating with a group of people. And all this and that. They're just getting really used to it, becoming more familiar. And I want you to have the courage to step out there and start talking so you can get used to your voice, so you can discover more about how what you have translates digitally. Yes, you're going to be your authentic self, but how do we translate that authentic self to the people? Over time, with practice, with repetition, you'll get a flow down. People will start to recognize your voice on social media. I think anybody who sees a whole bunch of letters and exclamation marks pretty much probably says, this must be something else. Is she behind this? It's just a way I talk that I'm excited. I want to release this information to you. It's extra, extra, read all about it. That's just the kind of voice I have, but it took time to become comfortable with it. So who are you? Who are you talking to? Who's responding? Next is what? What is content? And content builds community. Content builds community. So one thing I want you to know, and this was powerful when I read it today, there's potential supporters connected to every piece of content you produce. There are people on the other side of your post. You know you want to reach people. You did not get into ministry just to minister to yourself. You are the first partaker of the message, indeed. But we obviously want to go into all the world and preach the gospel, share the good news, share how we can make life better. Be anointed, removing burdens, destroying yokes. We want to be out there. We want to be connecting. Content helps you make that connection. There are people on the other side of everything you do digitally. You're you. Then you have this digital self that's presenting who you are authentically to people. Even though I'm talking into a laptop right now, I realize, and I'm becoming more and more excited thinking about your listening. I know at least one person who's listening. That's Dr. Larry, right? Dr. Larry, you're listening. But there are other people who are on the other side of whatever you put out there digitally. It doesn't matter if they don't respond to it right away. You don't know when they see it. They could have seen it at 1 a.m. and just didn't want to respond because they didn't want people to know they're up. Trust me, I do it all the time. There are people, potential supporters connected to every piece of content you produce. So produce, and produce conscious content. Not just producing because you're like, Elle said there's people on the other side of this, so I'm going to just reach all these people. But you're producing content that's authentic, that's conscious, that people, are waiting on. You're getting into your rhythm and your flow. You're producing. There's people on the other side of that. Do it at a pace that you can maintain. Do it at a pace that you can be conscious about it, and it could truly be authentic. The what is content. So the who is you. You are your digital self. The what and the who is who you're talking to. The what is the content. Content builds community. The when. When is all about being consistent. Think of adding content as a constant reminder to you of your who and your why. If you said, I have to do this, my why is that I was healed by by a message that I'm putting out there. It brought healing to me. It did this. It did that. Whatever your why is. Your why has affected the who, which is you, right? Why wouldn't we want to put that out consistently? We don't want to do what's called going ghost. You know what I mean? Where we just post sometime and then kind of disappear. I have to watch that on my business brand page, and we'll talk about how we can be more consistent, because the reality is a lot of us have a lot going on all at once. So it's hard. It's not like maybe that you don't want to be consistent, but maybe you just can't. But there are tools that can help you. So adding content is a constant reminder of your digital self is out there and why you're out there anyway, right? Where, who, what, when, where? Where are you digitally? Remember, virtual is no longer optional. So you got to determine, where do you feel comfortable being right now? Yes, I know that Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are still, some of the top spaces to be. And then you have your YouTubes, you have your TikToks, your Snapchats, you have your Pinterest, you have all these, different communities. You have your Medium for blogging. You got LinkedIn. Shout out to the LinkedIn. I felt a LinkedIn person like, LinkedIn, put me in there. But you have all these different places, but where do you feel led to be? It's just like with anything else. Really kind of figure out, where do I feel led? As much as the statistics will say, hey, look, you need to be everywhere. And I used to say that, look, you should just at least try to set up everywhere. That is great in theory. But I have seen some people who crushed it on Instagram because they just were consistently there. They worked that. And you know what? Their next post after crushing it there was something to the nature of, you know what, I think I'll start a YouTube channel. Y'all let me know. Hit me up, subscribe. They started YouTube, and their YouTube, they're at 10,000 subscribers in day one. Why? Because they've consistently built a community in one space consistently, that when they begin to emerge in others, people don't have a problem following them. I am all for claiming your social names on all the platforms, but you have to find a way to be consistent somewhere. And how do those places serve your who? And how are you going to keep them relevant with new information? I have a friend who always tells me, she says, how many Instagram profiles do you have? And I always tell her, I don't have that many. I have 4. But reality is 4 is hard to maintain. I feel like they all have their different voices. So I didn't want to just bombard my personal feed with all my business stuff, or all my film journaling stuff, or all of my media ministry stuff. But perhaps I could have consolidated. But as a result of my choice to have my various voices everywhere, then I do have audience on all of those, but it's really hard for me to be consistent, if I'm just being honest with you. And I don't know. I wonder, did I bite off more than I could chew? Maybe I could have been working some of the other things off the network and just had a personal page and then the business page. But now that they're all out there, I have to understand that they're all connected to people who I have the potential to build community with. Now I have to think about, how am I going to do that? So where are you? How do you serve your who from those places? And how are you going to keep them relevant? And last but certainly not least is how. How are we going to do all this? We're going to use our tools. We're going to schedule our posts. I am preaching to myself. That's probably why I'm getting so hyped. We're going to schedule our posts. Use the new Facebook Creative Suite. This is so amazing. I was talking to one of my friends in social media ministry, Neil Smith, and he was like, look, my first go-to tool right now is the Facebook Creative Suite, where if you have a Facebook page and Instagram connected, you can already go in there and schedule and it'll post to both of them free of charge. You could have it all scheduled out, and at least, you know, you're maintaining on those two entities. There are other scheduling tools as well, but I am convinced now, as I think about how I promoted this event 10 minutes before. I did promote weeks ago, like right when I saw we could promote this series. Maybe that was really back in December. But because my time, and I was running out of time, I was like, I got to put it on stories. I got to do this. I could have scheduled all of that. But you got to take the time out to do it. You got to be intentional, as we're talking about at my church this year, Higher Dimension Church Tallahassee, shout out. You got to be intentional if you're really going to build community. 1 hour was my one plan, Be Social recommendation. Can you commit to 1 hour a week to do one post a week on at least one network? You use a scheduler, you could probably double or triple that in the hour. Next thing it says, design your post. Use Canva or a tool like Poster My Wall. Poster My Wall is so lit. I love my graphic designers, but anybody who knows a creative or a visionary, you know you need flyers, like it seems like every day. Canva can help you. Poster My Wall can help you. And then you use your graphic designers for your big staple pieces. Or use them for every piece if that's where you are, you know. Interactive web, socially appealing and helpful web presence. Use tools for that. Use your web design tools. We now train our clients on how to set up and maintain their own websites on a platform that is socially appealing and allows them to be interactive. Long gone are the days of just having a website that's just information only. We ought to be able to do something on there. Can we make payments? Can we download your new book? Can we see this webinar on there embedded in your website? You want people, you want to eliminate the number of steps that people have to take to get to your content. Show them that you care. You know their time is valuable. So help them interact with what you have quickly. So virtual is no longer optional. Use your website for that. Multimedia mix. Do a mixture of things. Pictures, videos like Reels or TikTok, memes, GIFs, reposts and shares. Maybe you're like, I don't even know where to begin with content. Well, maybe there's content out there that you like. Maybe you love Amana Bible Institute. Amana is always posting information about what's coming up. You can always share that. Do you know that too starts to build a presence for you? Especially when you're putting people on the good stuff. They'll follow you for that. Why? Because people don't have time to curate content themselves. So if you have a great content you're always sharing, I'm definitely going to follow you. Makes my life easier. And lastly, use hashtags. Because sometimes those hashtags will help you reach, or people will become more aware of you who might not have known your name. But you have media ministry as a hashtag, and they're interested in media ministry, and they have now clicked the hashtag and see everyone else who's interested, and they see that post by you, that video. It looks kind of fun. They watch it. Next thing you know, they know you. They follow you. Next thing you know, they may have an event. They may invite you to be a virtual speaker. You've been praying for this all the time. Now you're speaking there, and you meet more people, and you meet more. Do you see what I mean? Use your tools. So really, that's the high level overview of being social. Just to take it back, it starts with your why. Why are you out here? Why do you want to be out there anyway? Why? What is it? I would really encourage, and I'll put in the chat, that Simon Sinek talk about the why is so profound, just to think of it, to start thinking of everything from that point of view first. Who, who are you, be authentic. You know, if there's things that you like, share that. People love authenticity. Who are you talking to? You may think you're talking to this group, but then based on the response and, you know, the engagement, you may see that another group has emerged. Key into that. Or you may be putting out what a certain type of content that you think is bomb. I do it all the time. I put out something, I'm like, this, wait till they see this. Nothing. I put out something else that just didn't even take thought. It's just authentically, not that the first one wasn't, but it's just who I am. Something goes through the roof. Be mindful of what people are responding to. And don't be afraid to shift and go more so in that direction. My brother tells a story all the time. He likes to make little videos about his life and process. He's a realtor, owns a real estate agency. And he got on YouTube with those videos and just thought, oh, my, you know, people are going to follow these. Then he started kind of producing lifestyle type videos of houses, not just like normal tours, but gave him a lifestyle flair. 30, 40, 50,000 views. Now he's probably 4,000 subscribers, all of these type things. And the content he thought, maybe he has 10, 20 views, but he was able. So that's why I said you have to find out what translates. He knew his why. He's passionate about seeing people get a home. He knows that. But he thought if he showed his process behind the scenes, that was going to draw. Well, it turns out he flipped that and started showing houses from a lifestyle point of view, and it drew people. His goal was achieved. And he's been able to put so many people in houses as a result. So based on the response, don't be afraid to shift up the content. See what people are responding to and give them more of that. You put it out there so it's authentic to you. So you don't have to feel like, no, they don't get this. No, you put that out there. They're responding to it. Give it to them. Be consistent with it. Post where you are. Okay? And use your tools. We have an interactive, well, we have a live toolkit that we update all the time that is available on our website that you can subscribe to yearly and just follow along. It's like my toolkit where I'm like, oh, I'm using this now. This is a cool new tool. So you can stay up on those things. And if you ever need to reach me, that's how you can reach me. But wondering now, Dr. Leary, if there's any questions or what you might have to say about some of those things that we shared tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Professor L. This was great. Definitely reminded me of some of the things that, you know, we've been chatting about just in the past few days about my own personal lack of social activity. You know, I post a lot for ABI, but I don't really say a lot about my own life. So that will definitely change. I really love how you centralize the why. You know, as you mentioned, it's normally the thing that people think of after they've started a venture. But really the why is what, you know, really was central in producing and creating ABI, and still very much is pretty central. But, you know, I think when thinking about the how and the what we're actually attempting to communicate, it has a lot to do with just, you know, living everyday life, finding yourself. And so this is definitely a huge reminder of my need to share a little bit more about my day-to-day.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was great. There were a few people watching. I don't see any questions here though. So we'll just go into some of the things that AB High has coming up really briefly and then conclude the webinar.
I'll put this in the chat too. Dr. Leary, as I promised, I wanted to put that TED Talk in the chat from Simon Sinek there, and just wanted to remind people that he said in this talk that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that just spoke so loud. People don't buy what you do, or people aren't engaged by what we have, contrary to what we think. They're engaged, or they buy, or become loyal as a result of why we have what we have. So just thought I would share that note.
Thank you. I'm posting it on our YouTube pages and in the Facebook Live. So those who watch it and watch the replay will have access to it as well.
Awesome.
So ABI always has a ton going on. We offer at least 4 webinars a month. They're free of charge, and we have new classes every single month. So we have a lot to offer, and we're just waiting on you to, share things with and to learn and grow with. One of our principal teaching philosophies is to create a very open lecture space, a space that is so open it doesn't quite meet the definition of being a lecture space. It's more of a seminar, because we want to encourage dialogue, and we want to encourage the interplay and like the switching of roles. In this case, the teacher becoming a student and the student becoming an instructor. So we really want you to come into this space and allow us to really allow that classroom dynamic to take place. We believe we'll all grow and be better for it. And so right now we have prophetic artistry just concluded. It was a great class. We are going to offer it again, either in the summer or the fall, part 2 of the course, which you are still welcome to take, even if you missed part 1. So that should be really fun. We just concluded last Thursday, and next week we're moving into 3 new classes. So we have first the Bible Languages Primer. It's a course co-taught by Professor Onika and I that really focuses on giving you all of the tools necessary to become a learner of biblical languages. So we're going to teach you about the dynamics of language. We're going to teach you the Hebrew and Greek alphabet. And we're going to give you the kind of foundational tools that you need to be able to push through any type of roadblocks that you might have when learning a biblical language. Those who enroll in that course and complete it will have their registration fee go into their language course, meaning that your language courses have off in March.
Wow.
We're also offering Bible, Sex, and Other Texts, part 1. This is just part 1. Part 2 of the course will be offered in March, mid-March. But Bible, Sex, and Other Texts is a course all about the Bible, ancient Near Eastern texts, or early Christian texts for part 2, and sex, gender, and sexuality. So it's a really wild course because the Bible is wild.
Oh, wow.
And, and really the ancient world is crazy. So we get to really kind of bring a lot of those things that you read and watch in films or film series like Game of Thrones, for example. We read about those things in biblical and extra biblical texts, meaning texts that are outside of the Bible. And we're going to just have candid talks about all of this stuff, starting with creation. And we're doing that on Thursdays at 7. So this course starts next Thursday at 7. And last but not least, we have social entrepreneurship. That course will meet Saturdays at 10 a.m. It's an introductory course, that is all about how to become a social entrepreneur and the keys, to social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship is something that we see in the United States, but we don't generally hear this term as often as we ought to. But the type of businesses that we should be developing as, kingdom citizens should be businesses that are benefiting the community, that are benefiting our society. And in this case, we really need to think of creative ways to build these companies and these businesses and advertise these products, but still very much make an income. And of course, in social entrepreneurship, will help with that. The Professor Cam, he's from South Africa, so he will be able to kind of give you a non-Western perspective on social entrepreneurship. And this is definitely something that is a huge buzzword in the West. In the non-West. So, outside of the West, it's not so much of a buzzword as it ought to be here, but let's make it a buzzword. So these are the 3 classes that we are offering this spring. They start next week, just 4 weeks. So 1 class a week for 1 hour. And we do have some promotions to kind of help you pay for those classes. 10% off monthly subscription plans, 20% off of certificate programs. I've already mentioned that half off biblical languages for taking the biblical language primer. Last but not least, we have webinars available for you. Our next webinar is also it's a ministry and social change webinar, and it's all about ethics, the church, and the marketplace. So we're going to be having that very uncomfortable but necessary conversation about Christian ethics. So do come and join us for that free webinar. And then we're going to have a few other webinars, including a digital self part 2 webinar that will be in March, also taught by Professor L here. So come back and hear her brilliance. And we have Demystifying Prayer that will be shortly before that, February 23rd. You definitely want to make sure you come to that. That's going to be somewhat of a free webinar that gives you a precursor to our prayer course that will be offered in March. And you don't want to miss prayer course because it's amazing and taught by Professor Onika, who prayer is just her thing. So you definitely don't want to miss that. That's all we have for you guys today. If you're interested in this PowerPoint, please do email us or comment in this in one of these replays, and we are happy to send you a copy of the PowerPoint. And if you are also interested in more information about Professor L, if you could just put your stuff in the chat, or if you want to put it inside of the Facebook
will do.
Live, I'll just copy it over into YouTube.
Yep, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Also give a link to the toolkit too, just in case. Yep.
Cool. Did you want to say anything else, Professor L, before we leave?
I'm just excited about what's to come. I really am. And I think now is the time. If you haven't been social before, or you were and you've kind of fallen off, I think it's a good time to think about your why again, key into that, and let that kind of push you forward into what your next is. Because I'm a strong believer that our next doesn't just overtake us. We walk towards it and we kind of embrace it and we move into it. And I think the more you get your voice out there and you begin to talk about what it is that you have that can help others, and you begin to talk about that why that's driving you, I think that you'll see yourself getting further and further into what's next for you. So I'm just glad to be along the journey, and hopefully I've shared something that can be helpful.
Awesome. You have. I've learned much, as always.
Yeah, well, I feel convicted, like I got to make sure I schedule some things. We got to, Toya, our church has been talking about being intentional. And I think it's got to spill out into every part of our lives. And this is just one of those parts. And this is just communication. If we'll just take all I'm not technical, or I don't like social media. If you just move all that off the table and just remind yourself that this is another way to communicate to people that may need you, and even to yourself. Maybe something will come out. Me doing this presentation today has encouraged myself. I think we'll move ahead more into this. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of my closing words there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think in with the whole communication thing, part of the issue is that we don't really care about bettering our communication, or we do, but we don't really want to think about what it means for us to be pushed out there. I'm more so in that latter category. So
Hmm.
for me, it's not just that I don't really trust or like social media, it's the
Hmm.
communication, like presenting myself, like being in front of the scenes is really difficult compared to being like the person developing this
Right.
stuff and like Professor L, you take it over.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. So
Yeah.
hopefully that if you guys are out there and you're like me, you will take these daring steps that I will dare take.
Yeah. Let your digital self emerge. And I tell you, your titling personal growth matters is prophetic even in itself. Because if we will endeavor to step out there, you'll notice in one of my slides, I said, and who is responding? Like, and basically, what content have you put out there that people are responding to? So sometimes it's vital to your own growth. Otherwise, you just keep putting out the same and you say, well, I'm really not into it, but I put out something, and we're not giving uh, the audience, the people, the community a chance to pour back into us by saying, this really blessed me. I would love to see more of this so that we can begin to structure our content accordingly.
Yeah,
We cannot be afraid of that. So
definitely. Being audacious in 2021.
yeah, let's go. Let's go full speed ahead and organize for me, I guess. Time management. It does take some managing to do it. Like
Yeah.
it does not just happen, like it has to be factored in. So I say if you can factor in an hour a week, you'll be further along than wherever you might be now. An hour more a week, or 1 hour at least consistently. If you do one post a week for a year, you'll will have done 52 posts. You will have impressed your digital self onto the World Wide Web 52 times, and then that just compounds.
Yeah, that makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense.
Yeah. So let's do it. Now we got to do it. Talking was easy. Now I got to reshare this feed. Reshare. That's one post for the week. We got to do something. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you as always. Yes, I will. I actually have it up, but then I had to remember another part of what I'm doing this year is trying to be more present. So yeah.
Good goals.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Professor L, for sharing your wisdom. And I see that there are 2 people out there in social media. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask them now.
Go ahead and get social with us. Tell us what's up. What y'all think about it? What y'all out there doing? Y'all just scroll by? Tell us, let's talk. We have a few more minutes, but if not, anytime someone will respond, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar. I hope you have a great day, everyone. And thank you, Professor L.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.